I'm an electrical engineer. I started at Queen's University, and I've never left engineering. I've always loved working with software and technology. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about three things. The first one is I'm going to give you a little bit of background on me, but I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of my journey and what I've learned, in the interest of sharing with you some of what I've been through. I won't really. There's certainly visible scars any CEO will have, and I'll talk about those a little bit. There are the bruises that heal, but you still remember them. And then I'm 56, so I forget a lot of stuff. So some of them I don't remember. I'm going to talk about you and what it's like to be an operator running a business. Although, I mean, it was on the website, so I had to take it, right? And the journey that a lot of you are still in terms of growing a business. And I've actually restarted again. And then the third thing I want to talk about is everyone, just in what we can do for each other. Because we're all here, we're all part of Peerscale, because we're here to help each other. It's not just about us, like an individual thing. So a little bit about me. I have 5 slides, by the way, but I've got a ton of builds on them, so it's like 30. Number one, I mentioned earlier, I'm a software engineer, so I love geeking out on technology. I'm going through right now some reminder configuration settings on our app, and how can we best do it and surface it for the users so it's really cool for them and easy and elegant. And that's what I do. I did it with my last business for over 14 years. I defined the entire product, features set almost, for 14 years. And I got really detailed with it, and I wrote all the original screens because I really like that stuff. It's one of the things that really gets me excited. The other thing for my last business, again, this is my last business, I wanted to grow the business. I wanted to create a success for it. The third thing with the last business is I wanted to build a great team. I believe a lot in people. I believe a lot in helping them grow and learn and develop. And I wanted to have a great team in my last business. And the other thing, of course, we're all here as executives or CEOs. You want to actually work on something where you're going to be set for life. You're going to actually have a nice exit. Maybe you don't have private jets, but you have enough in your life for yourself and your family that you can be comfortable, and you can start thinking about other things like Jeff talked about. It was very inspirational what he talked about. So the question is, how did I do? This is, by the way, my last business. I ran it for 14 and a half years, and it was my 7th business. So how did I do? Well, I geeked out a lot on the product. It was an expense management product, so you fill out expense reports. The highest form of praise I ever got from a customer is they said they almost enjoyed filling out their expense reports. If they said they enjoyed it, I mean they were crazy. So that was the peak of what I could do. I had customers like Slack and CrossFit and lots of other corporate customers. I had about 2,000 of them. But we were the best in expense management from my perspective. Now, in terms of growth, this is without the vertical axis, but this was my revenue for 6 years. So, by the way, we launched in 2004, so you can notice how flat it was before then. The slope did continue to increase. It was the proverbial hockey stick, but I actually charted this, I think, in 2015, and I hadn't noticed when I was building my business that this is what was going on. I noticed after the fact, which is not necessarily a testament to my business planning acumen that I noticed this 5 years later. In terms of the team, I was really proud that what do you call the people that are comment about your company on Glassdoor? You call them glassholes. But I actually did pretty well on Glassdoor for a lot of years, and I'm really proud with that because I felt I built a great team and I supported them to the nth degree. I remember, every 6 months or so, you can all probably relate to it. I'd have my customer success team would come to me and say, Neil, we were dealing with a customer in onboarding, and they're making people cry because they're being so difficult and hard to deal with and all that stuff. And they're like, what can we do about this? Can you help us with this? And I would say, sure. And I'd start typing on my computer. And they'd say, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm firing them right now. So if you let me finish the email, they'll be gone and they'll be out of your, and I would send them an email, a very polite one that said, we've seen some issues come up in the implementation and we know you're not happy. I would never make it about what they were doing to our team. and I'd say, we're just declining the opportunity to serve you. Here's a list of our competitors that you can go work with, and any money that you've paid us to date will be FedEx to you tomorrow morning, and you'll have it in your office the next day. I didn't want to give them any way to say that, something bad about us because we hadn't done something right for them. And we had them even ask, well, can you give us a couple months so that we can find a new competitor, a new vendor or something like this? I said, sure, use it for a couple of months, but it's still free because we're giving you all your money back, and we don't really, we're not going to charge you money for that. And of course, I knew they would never find a competitor that could do what we did, but I let them do it, and then I'd eventually move on. But the look on our customer success team's face when I did that for them was priceless, and I did it on a, every 6 to 9 month basis. So, around the set for life thing, how did I do with that? Well, in May 2015, I raised private equity, and it was a minority investment, or control of the company, and there was secondary, so that's money that went to myself and my co-founder. In May 2016, we sold control, and this is when we got a pretty good check, because we actually sold control of the business, but we still held some common shares, and I was actually the largest common shareholder, even after selling in May 2016. And then in June 2016, which is, by the way, 3 weeks later, if those of you on my roundtable know this story, I got fired. They performed a founderectomy. And I remember, I won't go into the whole circumstances about how it all happened on the day it happened, but it's a very funny story for later. But my wife was waiting for me. I was actually going to meet someone, and I met this person, and I went downstairs, and my wife was waiting to pick me up, and she said, well, how did it go? And I said, well, I got fired. Her response was, great, you're going to the gym tomorrow. That is what she said. She saw the stress I was under. So what Jeff talks about with mental health and your physical and emotional well-being, like, fall 2015 to that day was the most stressful of my entire career and everything I've done. And that's a really important thing for us to, to think about, and I think Jeff said it very eloquently, is we need to care about ourselves first, because what we do is not easy. So I was fired in June 2016, and I made an extra $7 million bucks. So that was awesome. I had 2 board seats still. They had 3. They decided they didn't want me on the board, but I still had a bunch of shares, so they bought the rest of my shares. So that was a good exit from all different ways. So really, it was mission accomplished. I achieved the goals that I wanted with my last business. Now, in terms of what I'm doing next, I decided I probably waited about 6, 9 months, and I was out of my exit, and I had some great people on the round table that told me you must wait a year before you start something new, and I couldn't last that long. I started thinking about what I could do, and I decided to start a business. It's called UpHabit. It's a personal CRM. It's B2C, so I've only ever done B2B in my life, so this is interesting for me to do B2C. It will be a subscription app. It'll launch in January 19. And I got to put another plug in for Jeff in his talk, because he talked about Stephen Covey's list of 10 questions. One of them is to nurture your relationships, and this is what this app is about. We launched it on iOS in August. We just did Android a few weeks ago, and we're in beta, and we're going to launch it on the app stores in January of next year. But as you can see, I searched on Peerscale, and there's Kim, Corey, and Mandy that came up as 3 of the names that were tagged for Peerscale in our app. And you can see I set reminders, so I'm supposed to talk to Kim back on December 4th, which is coming. And I have Corey on Saturday, December 22nd. And Mandy, I don't have a reminder for, so I got to actually change that. So that's enough about me. So what about you? It's a grind. I think Jeff said it as well. It's very difficult what we do as CEOs or C-level executives. It's not something that's really easy in any stretch. And especially if you're growing the business at the pace most of us are growing it at. Spiral fractures, you're spinning and pivoting and twisting and turning, and you're growing the business, and every process that you built has to be thrown out every 3 to 6 months. You're really spinning on it like a top, and it's very, very difficult to kind of, keep planning your business and moving it forward. And the other thing that I've noticed is it's all your fault. So no matter what goes wrong in the business, if you're a C-level executive or CEO, it all boils down to what you did wrong. No matter whose responsibility it was for the actual issue, it all flows to you, and none of it flows away from you. So again, this gets back to the strain and the stress that rests on our shoulders over time. So the reality, as I said it, is that being a C-level executive is difficult, it's hard, but it's also really worth it. This is one of the things we love doing, but I think, as Jeff said, we could do a lot better job of supporting each other and taking care of ourselves, because that's one thing I certainly wasn't doing enough between fall 2015 and summer 2016. By the way, I lost 30 pounds in about 3 months. After I got fired, I went on I do spinning, I do yoga, I play squash all the time. Like, there's all kinds of things I started doing again that I hadn't done in a while. So the part about, we've talked about me, we've talked about you. So this one's about every one of us. Number one is I didn't look up until 2014 when my bankers at the time recommended I join Acetech, which is now Peerscale. And I started looking around. I met a great group of people that are part of my roundtable. They still keep me, even though I'm going to be B2C. Actually, an important point is because I joined Peerscale back then, and it was before I started negotiating my term sheets with private equity and all that stuff, I attribute at least $5 million of my exit is because of my roundtable and the advice I got from the people about my term sheet. But no, they don't get any of the money. They've asked many, many times. Yeah, actually nothing. Also help out. Jeff talked about giving back. I do a lot. I work with the Creative Destruction Lab, which is run out of Rotman. I go to New York. I go to Stern in New York City. I help out in Toronto. I'm also helping out in Montreal as well. It's a way to kind of help startups that are potentially high growth. They've created, I think, $2.4 billion in equity in the last 5 years because of the startups that they've helped nurture. The hatchery is another one at U of T. That's more for the engineering team, so I help them out a little bit. I volunteer on some boards, and you'll see at the bottom of every one of my LinkedIn articles, I just publicly say, anybody who wants any help, just go ahead and ask me, and if I can help you, I will help you. And then, of course, Peerscale. So I wanted to get a show of hands for those of you that have had this set for life exit happen recently in the last 5 to 10 years. How many of you can raise their hands on that? So those of us that have gone through that, we hold a responsibility to help everybody else. So a show of hands of people that are still in the grind. I'm kind of back in the grind. The first group of people, it's their responsibility and our shared responsibility to help everybody get to that moment, because it's a life-changing event. I know at our roundtable, the guys that have exited are like joking and smiling, and their faces are really smooth, and the ones that are still operating are kind of greasy and a little stressed, and their eyes twitch a little bit or their face ticks. It's really hard what they're going through. And we got to help each other. I mean, that's what it's all about. So hopefully we can get a chance to kind of network and help each other out. And anything you can think of in Peerscale that you think would help the community grow, talk to Mandy or talk to anybody, because we really want to make this something that's special. So thanks very much. Good luck in your journey.